Welcome to our webinar series. This is the webinar from the Organic Federation of Canada on the modifications to the Canadian organic standards in the livestock production section. My name is Nicole Boudreau. I work with the Organic Federation of Canada. I've managed it's the third time that I manage the review of the Canadian organic standards. As some of you may not be very familiar with this review process, we will just take a few minutes to summarize what this is about. The review process was launched in 2023. So the review has to be done every 5 years in accordance with the practices for standardization by national bodies set forth by the ISO IEC Guide 59. The review process involved addressing more than 300 requests for modifications to the standards. The requests for modifications were submitted by the industry, organizing 189 meetings, 2-hour meetings of 13 working groups and task forces, preparing 5 meetings of the Technical Committee on Organic Agriculture. The Technical Committee on Organic Agriculture is composed of the voting members who will decide on the content of the Canadian Organic Standards, resolving 900 comments submitted during the public comment period, and resolving also negative votes that were cast under the ballot launched by the CGSB, the Canadian General Standards Board. So the standards presented to you were adopted by a majority of the voting members of the Technical Committee. We therefore remind you that the Organic Federation that I represent does not determine the content of the standards. The OFC's role is to administer the review process, which concludes when the voting members of the Technical Committee have voted by ballot under the supervision of the CGSB. So the review team, we were a great team. Myself, Marie-Ève Levert, who is the chair of the Technical Committee on Organic Agriculture, Alison Kremp, who is the chair of the Crop Working Group for both principles and permitted substances list, François Labelle, who is the speaker, who will present the modifications to livestock production today, Rochelle Eisen, who is the chair of the Organic Integrity and Composition, and also the chair of the greenhouse section, the crops grown under structures, Elodie Nadeau, the chair of the Maple Syrup Working Group, Pia Lofsgaard, chair of the Fairness Working Group, and we had working group managers because our task was complicated. We had Ariane France, Margaret Graves, Janet Wallace was the writer, the communicator. We have produced 1 article per month to inform you of the progress of the review. We have Rebecca Wienhouse providing very precious administrative support, and Desiree Jans, who has also helped managing the crop working group. So the OFC thanks the review team, the 120 members of the working groups and task forces, the members of the Technical Committee, and the Canadian General Standards Board. The review work is a big project with a budget of $677,000. That is 75% of this amount is funded by Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada under the Agri Assurance Program. So the industry has to cover 25% of this amount. That is equivalent to $175,000. We already have 19 generous sponsors who are supporting the review, but we are still quite short. We really invite you to support the review. This is your best investment in sustainable food production. Our standards are a public good designed to protect our environment and the domestic and international markets for Canadian organic products. The OFC is a not-for-profit organization, and we manage the review on your behalf. So we need your support. You go to the on the website of the Organic Federation of Canada. There is a section dedicated to sponsorship, and it's easy. You can pay direct transfer, credit card, whatever is easy for you. It is all indicated on our website. The review is not yet completed. We will run a post-mortem because though it is the third time we manage the review, there are always things we can do better. So the post-mortem will be a survey where you will indicate what was easy for you, what should be improved. Also, the committee, the standards interpretation committee, what is called AgriSIC, has a big job. Has already started to revise the 420 questions and answers posted on the OFC website. The task of the standards interpretation committee is to answer questions submitted by the certification bodies or by the producers, the operators, and these questions and answers are legally binding. So, so it's the reason why it is so important for us to present all the Q&As complying with the 2026 version of the Canadian Organic Standards. We hope to finish that big task at the end of April. We hope so. And also, our next big task is to monitor the relocation of the Canadian Organic Standards. Maybe some of you know, some of you don't. The Canadian government has announced the dissolution of the Canadian General Standards Board earlier this spring. So the CGSB it has officially ended its operation on March 31st. We are very pleased because our revised standards were published just before the March 31st deadline, and they were published on the publication on the Government of Canada publication site on March 26th. So our standards are valid for 5 years and we're safe. But however, the Standards Council of Canada will take care of the transfer of our standards to another standardization agency, as standardization rules are always equivalent on the ISO systems. The review process will be maintained and it will be quite the same, but we will closely monitor this transfer to ensure that our organic standards remain in good hands and that their maintenance proceeds as democratically under the supervision of a new agency. So again, today, the proposed modifications to the standards to the livestock section. François Labelle will be our speaker today. After the standard livestock section, we will have a short presentation on apiculture and organic insect production. François Labelle, who is an agronomist, he is an expert in organic dairy production at Lactanet. François has been involved in the review in 2015, and then he has become the chair of the livestock working group in 2020, and in the current review that we are now leading. Thank you, François.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. So let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Here and like that. So should be good.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome everybody. So what I'm this afternoon, in fact, I will give you a summary of the main changes that were the main modifications that were done with this revision. Most of the modifications were done into these 4 sectors of the livestock standards. So there's a part, so we'll look into the changes for pasture. There's a few more other modifications in feed, also in healthcare, and finally in living conditions. So we'll go through that. The way it's presented, it's the revision mode, we call it, in a way that, as you can see, for example, here with this definition of grazing, everything that's underlined, that's new language, that's new wording. If it's crossed, then it's something we removed. So starting with the part on pasture, we had a completely new definition for the grazing season. I'll let you look into that, but it's really, we're talking about, you know, the differences between localities. If you're in the north or in the south, your grazing season can be shorter or longer. So we have to take that into account. And of course, you can extend your grazing season different ways, but really just to give a general definition of what we talk when we were talking about the grazing season. There was some other new terms and definitions. We will see some of them, not all of them, but just to give you a list. So beak treatment for poultry, beak treatment, beak trimming, that's not the same thing. What is a compromised animal? Also, there's a clear definition into the standard. Environmental enrichment, we'll look at it a little bit later, and we just looked at grazing season. So the first part that was changed in the pasture rules is you see it here, yeah, at 6131. So there was some questions about how we should calculate the ration. So we really introduced the fact that it has to be done on a daily basis. So the daily dry matter intake, that's really how we should make the calculation regarding the 30% of forage intake that should be coming from pasture. That's the minimum. Again, online on clause 2, we clarified it. It's really 30% of forage intake, not the whole intake. And the new part really, where we ask more, we want to know more, in fact, about the grazing, how it's done. So consumption of grazed forage below 30% of forage intake is permitted at the beginning and end of grazing season. So 30%, that's really what we want to have in general, but we understand that, beginning and end of season, that's not achievable. And the main part really is on clause 4, where we want to have the producers to have a record of what is happening in their pasture. So date of beginning and end of grazing, the dates of confinement, if there are some, and mainly where we want more details is on the rotation. So entry and exit dates, size of the area, the number of animal in each paddock or pasture and we can use different tools to do that. Grazing calendars, grazing charts. These are different tools that are available. You can find that very easily. There's softwares you can use, so different ways to do it. But the idea is to know, okay, where were for example, the cows on June 2nd, in what paddock were they? So that's the kind of information we want to have. Another change regarding grazing, specifically for dairy cows, we want to have a source of water available within 200 meters of where the cows are. So we really want to make sure they have access to water very easily. Yeah, I can move that here. Origin of livestock, we won't go into that. Just to let you know, we updated this section really to make it clear. It was really difficult to read and understand. We have an emphasis really on the need to produce organic replacement animals, but there's no change regarding the rules that were there. It's really explained in a better way. So second part, the feeding section. The first item was a general some kind of a recommendation, or we're asking, in fact, the producers to have a link with a professional expert in nutrition. It's either the farmer itself that can have the professional qualifications, or you can have any agrologist, nutritionist, or experienced peer that can assist you with your with the nutritional needs of your animals. Second clause that was changed really to clarify what we're when we're talking about dairy operations specifically. We want to make sure so that the animals get the colostrum and some care by the mothers, the cows or the ewes or whatever, for the first 24 hours. That didn't change. We're just introducing a note here saying that this clause will be reviewed more in details at the next revision. We want to send a signal that it's a better way to raise those young animals if they are with their mothers. So there's research and there's a lot of information, telling us this is a better way. So this is a signal we're going to evaluate that in the next revision. Regarding weaning, that's a new standard also. We want to have weaning that will be really minimizing stress. And there's two situations we're describing here. So either you have dam-raised lambs or calves or kids, where you have to have a way to minimize the stress, really to work with different practices, fence line weaning, nose paddle, two-stage weaning, or natural weaning. So we want to make sure the weaning is done in different steps. The other situation is really when you have the young animals that are separated from their dam. They're fed hand raised, they're fed milk by the farmers. In this case, we want to have the weaning done gradually over at least 5 days, again, to reduce the stress for weaning. Another change we did was to remove the first part of this clause, 644J. We were asking to have, there was a demand to have longer fiber in the silage with very specific criteria. We're removing that because now we have tools that are available now. When you work, for example, with a nutritionist to have your ration done, we can evaluate the content of fiber more easily than it was done, and that's why the previous change was done to make sure that the farms have access to nutritionists or people to help them with their ration. But we're removing this part. The second part of the standard regarding the use of corn silage, it's still the same. That's not changed. Another change we did for poultry and pigs, we want to define more clearly what is before that we were calling that vegetable matter, though now we're saying this is called plant material, so it's really more general term. And what other than grain, what can be used as plant material? So we're really describing it there in details, and yeah, different sources that can be used: pasture, hay, straw, alfalfa pellets, corn cobs, vegetables, or fruits. So it's really, again, to clarify this part of the standard. Non-organic feed under certain circumstances. So if you remember, we had the clause still now it's 648. It was 647, but still the same content. We're just defined more precisely. The whole section was done, so I won't show it here, but you have the same information described more well precisely and to be understood more easily. What we're changing and well, just making it more clear is that if you are in this situation where you need to use non-organic feed or forage because of a catastrophic event, in this case, it will not affect the organic status of the livestock for milk or meat. So it was understood, but we really made it more clear that it should not have an impact on your certification, as long as you follow, the different criteria that were not changed. So they're right they were the same as the existing standard. Handling of livestock. We changed this whole section. We updated it. And I didn't put all the changes we did there, but it's really make sure we were updated with the latest research and regulation on handling of livestock. The main change that was done really was about the use of electric prods. So if you remember, it was completely prohibited in the last standard. Now we're making an exception, and you have it here in the first sentence, when human or animal health or safety is at risk. And there's a precise way to where we're describing when you can use the electric prod. So it's really as a last resort when the animal have a clear path to move and following the requirements of the applicable code of practice. So depending on the animal, you have different ways to use the prod. And the second part, 658, is you have to document any use of the electric prod and develop a plan to avoid using it in the future if you had to use it. So really, that's really the same approach we have with different clause like that. Handling of livestock, yeah, that's really the end of this part. Healthcare. So the first change we made was in 661. So we want to have a monitoring of the livestock the body score conditions, in fact, and really document only if there is corrective action that needs to be done. So really, we want to make sure we have a monitoring of it, but you don't have to document all of that. It's only if you have to correct something. And again, the same type of clause we had with the nutritionist. We want to make sure that the farms have a relationship with qualified expert or registered professionals such as veterinarian, experienced peer that can assist with any event of health issues. Physical alterations. So this whole section was done. We reviewed it, updated it, and the main change is really we made it more easy to understand, more clear. So I will take some time just to go through it with you. We have, and really we have updated the demands regarding what research tells us, but really it's mostly what we had before with some updates here and there, but really a different way to present it. So first thing, we shall take steps to avoid physical alterations as much as possible. So that's obvious. Of course, an identification is not part of that. In 664A, except for poultry, regardless of age or method, anesthetics and non-steroid anti-inflammatory analgesics shall be used in consultation with a vet To provide sufficient pain control, sedatives should be considered to further minimize stress. So we're really making it clear anesthetics and anti-inflammatory and analgesics, they have to be used. Second part, physical alteration should be done at a young age as much as possible. Other than poultry, they shall be done in the first 24 hours of life. Second, this next one, physical alteration must be performed or under the direct supervision of competent personnel, using proper, clean, sanitized, and well-maintained tools and techniques. Finally, the following physical alterations are prohibited under and even under veterinary supervision: caustic paste for disbudding, castration of cobles that was already there, spaying it's a female, it was already there, and preventative tail docking of cattle. That's really clear. We can't do it no matter how we're doing. Then the second part of the standard is really specification by species. So I don't want to go through all the details, but you have to know it seems like all new language because it's a new text completely. Again, there are some parts that are new that we updated or made it more clear, but really it's only an update. It's really that we went by species to make it clear. So if you're a poultry farmer, you go into that section, you follow the general rules I just described, and then you go into that section for your type of livestock. So we have a section on poultry, pigs, cattle, sheep, and goats. So you have all the details there. All of these updates were done to make sure we were up to date with the code of practice or with the latest research. Now, still in healthcare, 667, a new clause regarding the isolation of animals when they are sick. So we want to make sure that the isolation, you have it in the second paragraph, that if if they are isolated, they should have physical contacts with other livestock as much as possible if the type of disease permits it. If you need to remove them completely, be completely isolated, it should be done in a way that, is in a short time as possible and the best way, and bring them back with the other livestock as soon as possible. That's really what we're talking about here. Finally, last section, living conditions. The first part really we changed was really about the air quality. So we clarified really, we're talking about, humidity, of course, airborne dust particle. We don't want them to reach higher levels as much as possible. So, and especially for ammonia. So what we changed here was really to put the limit lower. So instead of 25 ppm, it's at 20 ppm. So we have to act before it gets to 25. And we want to make sure that it doesn't go to 25 ppm. And of course you have, depending on your type of livestock, you have to manage your air quality according to the code of practice for each livestock. Yes, the new definition here for environmental enrichment. So there's a new definition and there's a new clause for this part. So I'll take the time to read it because it's really more easy to understand. So environmental enrichment, that's provision of safe materials or objects to an animal's environment that encourage the expression of natural behavior and exercise. The materials or objects shall be appropriate for the livestock production system and stage of production and do not include functional equipment or other objects, materials required by this standard. So if you have already if we're asking already in the standard for some of these things, you have to add something more with this new standard. And you will understand a bit more what we're talking about here in this the new standard we have there. So what we're saying, when livestock are housed indoors, so that's really when the animals are in barns, at least one form of environmental enrichment shall be provided so that all animals in the group have daily access. Enrichment does not include functional equipment. That's what we said in the definition. So you have examples there. That's in the standard. So for poultry, it could be hanging peck objects, ramps, tunnels, stray hay bales, pecking blocks, etc. Cattle, it could be brushes, hanging ropes, chains, straw, hay bales. For pigs, we have toys, chew toys, chains, rubber toys, all of these. Of course, tray bales, straw and hay bales. They are always something you can use. Same kind of tools for sheep and goats. So brushes, platforms, all of that. So that's really a new part to the standard regarding living conditions. Here we have the new section on wood that's used for livestock fencing regarding untreated or treated wood. Again, I won't go into all of that, but really we want to make sure you're using the treated wood the least possible. I would just say that you can really have what is really new is that the perimeter fence can be used with can be done with treated wood. That's really what we're permitting here. We want to reuse the post as much as possible, of course, and yeah. So all the details are quite clear here, but really we didn't have anything about the using of treated posts in the livestock section. We have it, and it's really very similar to what we had in crops, except that we give more details regarding the use with animals. When we go into the sections, the different sections for specific to livestock, so we're in that part. So here for cattle, sheep, and goats, we had quite a long discussion on the access to outdoor when when the grazing season is finished. So outside of the grazing season, we had a lot of discussions there. So the first step we want to know, just to summarize it, is really first, at this time, we want the operators to document the reasons and the duration of confinement. We're not asking anything more right now. So we want to know what is really happening in Canada, and depending on the type of animals you have. So that's one thing, one information we didn't have. So with that, at the next revision, we'll be able to have a more clear view of what's happening, and this clause will be reviewed at the next revision because we want to clarify, okay, what are we really asking regarding the access to outdoor when we are outside of the grazing season. So and there are don't give you all the details, but there was other questions we needed to find more information. Some provinces have different rules regarding the access to outdoor. There's some environmental regulation in provinces that are allowing it in different ways. So we want to make sure all of that is can be done no matter where you are in Canada. So the next really the next review, we'll have a good discussion on this part again. Regarding the space requirements, we had some minor changes. So for this table 1 for dairy cattle, we're repeating. It was in a separate clause. Now we're just making it part of the table, so that the ratio of cows to stalls shall not exceed 1 to 1. What we added there was some discussion on that, just to make sure we are updated on that and make a literature review on the cow to stall ratio. We didn't have time to look into that, so the next review will look at it more closely and make sure we're really up to date on this part. The other table we changed was the one for beef cattle. So some change for adult beef cows. So just to let you know, we reviewed all the space requirements for all livestock. We wanted to make sure we were really up to date with research or any other similar standard. So in general, we were equal or above the other similar standards, except for the adult beef cows, where we had a requirement for 7.25 square meter per head for 900 kilo animal. Now we're saying, and again we checked everywhere, it should be at 9 square meter. So that's it could be a big difference for some operations. So that's why we have this note here at the bottom. If you need to change your barns or your infrastructure in general because of this change, you have some time to do it until December 2028. So that's really an allowance for changing that. Next slide is really about again, still the requirements for dairy cattle. We wanted to be more precise on the access to outdoor when you are in a tie stall situation. So tie stalls will still end by the end of 2030. So we still have a few years of those type of barns, but for that period of time, we wanted to make sure to describe exactly what is this when they go out, what are we talking about? So that's what we clarified here at the last part of the paragraph. Again, they have to go out at least twice a week. That didn't change, and preferably every day for a period of at least 1 hour if the weather permits. An exercise period is defined as the time when the cow is untied outside the routine handling procedures, such as milking. So if you are in a situation where you have to untie your cows to milk them, it doesn't count as exercise time. So it has to be 1 more hour really outside of this routine. So that's the main change we did there. Regarding the calves, how we raise them, we want to have more access or contacts, in fact, within calves. So we don't want them to be raised individually as it was permitted. So whenever it's possible, we want them to be raised at least in pair or in group as soon as possible. But there's, of course, some exceptions to that, and mainly these exceptions are there for smaller herds. When you have a lot of calves in big herds, it's very easy to do. With smaller herds, you have 1 calf every week or every few calves every month. That's where it's getting complicated. So you have all of these exceptions to make sure it can be done in a good way. So we want to make sure the calves have the same weight, somewhat the same age as much as possible. We don't want to have competitions all of that. But the general principle is that we want them to be raised in pairs or in group as much as possible. So you have all these exceptions here. If a calf is sick, or if you have too few calves, then you can raise them separately for a short while. Poultry now. So we had changes for the nest space. So you have it here, 613.4. It's really making a reference to the requirements that are in the code of practice, because this what we had before was very general. Now the reference is really specific to the code of practice for non-cage systems. 613.5 for the purchase. So we really specified for young animals what we want to have for purchase. So by 6 weeks of age, we shall provide 10 centimeters of perch per space or 10 square centimeters of platform space per pullet. 613.6 didn't change a lot there. It's still the same requirements. We just added that we want to be reviewing this standard at the next revision. It was supposed to be reviewed at this revision, but looking at all the different standards that were the new standards that have been put in place for poultry, it was more logical to give them some time to make to have an effect in those operations and then revise it at the next revision. We did some change in the densities for poultries. So you have the first change for young chicks or pullets. So we have a new standard for 0 to 4 weeks. So 35 birds per square meter or indoors or 16 birds outdoors. The rest is the same. We kept the same density of 24 birds, but now it's for pullets from 5 to 8 weeks. And we added also a reference for ducks. There was no specification for ducks, 21 kilos per square meter indoor or 1 kilo per square meter outdoor. And yeah, all of these, the note regarding the D note here, it just says that there could be some change in the code of practice because it was not updated, and it will certainly be in the next years. And if those new change to the 0, 4, or 5 to 8 weeks are different or have a lower density, well, we need to make sure we adapt accordingly to that. So that's really to make sure we're updating those densities as much as possible. This clause is really about operations that raise poultry on pasture during the grazing season. Again, we want to make sure that the barn that during the non-grazing season shall meet the same requirements of any animals that are raised in barns where they have access to outdoors. Really, we want to make sure those barns, even if you don't use them in summertime, they should be ready, should have the doors and should have all the same requirements, because you may have, in general, to one point was that you may have to use them, and it should be ready to be used. Additional requirements for farm for pigs and farm raised wild boar. Here again, we specified it. The only change in 615.2 is really to change to clarify what we wanted to say when we say access to outdoor. So it should be daily access to outdoor. And we removed the word exercise because we want to talk about areas in general, not only exercise areas. So that's really, and it shows in other clauses we changed the wording regarding those areas that are accessible to the pigs. Here we have some change to the sows that have been done. So we're changing this standard, and you will see the new standard, the new text that addresses the same kind of issues. So we're removing the area for individual pen for sows. We're removing the piglet production, and we're removing use of farrowing crates as means of restraint, the prohibition, in fact, on farrowing crates. So, and with the next standard, you'll see what we mean there, and we'll take the time to go into it. So confinement of sows in gestation crates or farrowing crates, or in another manner that prevents them from turning around, is prohibited, except for periods of temporary restraint. So the main difference is what it was in the old standard. We were completely prohibiting the use of farrowing crates, and having discussions on really how it works, we realized that yes, these farrowing crates could be used for a short time, and it can be very interesting for the animals and for the farmers as well. So that's what we're introducing this new standard. So sows may be restrained for a maximum period of 4 consecutive hours to protect the piglets or to protect the operator during piglet processing or pen cleaning. Sows shall be directly supervised while restrained and released as soon as possible. So that's really, again, the way the way we want these farrowing crates to be used, really for a short time and only in those specific instances. Here we have some new text for the sows. So when they're expected to farrow, shall be provided with a good quantity of straw or natural bedding to build. We want them to be able to build nests. Regarding 6.15.6, it's about the weaning for piglets. We didn't change the standard there, but we made a note, again, with the information we got and comparing that our standard to others. We saw there was some differences there, and we want to really work into that at the next revision. So for now, we just want them to document and provide justification for early weaning, but the weaning age will be reviewed at the next revision. The pigs table was changed also. We realized it was not clear enough, and it was, yeah, it needed to be really more clear. The main change, really, you see it on the right column there. When we were looking at the indoor and outdoor space, it didn't make sense in some instances. And really, we realized, again, comparing to other standards, that we need, most of the times the pigs have access, when they can go outdoor, they have access to a pen or to a run, even, well, at the same time as they have access to the barn. So that's why we introduced this column of total area for each type of animal. So really, when they are in that situation, they have to have access to, that's the total area that we're looking at. Other than that, yeah, we had some notes on the weaning. The B note there, protected area of the piglets shall be no larger than 20% of the space provided for the sow and litter. And C, for the circumstances in which keeping sows in individual pen is permitted. So we have a specification for individual pens that was not there, but you have to work with those pens, like it is the demand we have, the criteria we have to use those individual pens are described in 615.3. But here you have the indoor space you can use for those individual pens. And yeah, that's it for me. So before I let you go with Nicole, I just want to say Nicole did thank everybody for the revision. I want to make a special note for our working group. I worked with Margaret Graves. She was our manager for our working group. She did a very, very, very good job. So I want to let you know she was a really important into this revision. Thank you.
You have to stop sharing, Francois.
Yes.
Yeah, me again. And how, confinement. I think animal welfare is very well taken care of, especially confinement. Sometimes I feel we are confined to our computers. Maybe we should go out. Anyway, so thank you, Francois. I will just have a few additional slides about apiculture. We had a very long discussion with the apiculture working group, also with the technical committee, because in Canada, because we are in a cold country, and honeybees are not native, they are not autochthones. We import honeybees, so winter can be difficult. So there was a practice that was developed as to have non-organic to feed during wintering, to feed bees with non-organic sugar and non-organic honey. And it has developed extensively across Canada for ensuring survival of honeybees during winter. But this non-organic sugar feeding and non-organic honey feeding, it seems to contaminate the practices around the world. As for example, we heard that in some countries, they use Canadian standards because you can feed non-organic feed to insects, to bees. So there is now a change to the apiculture standards, so that maybe it's better to read that. The working group and the technical committee wants to introduce at least for a minimum of 5% of hives on an operation that bees 5% of the hives would be fed with organic sugar or organic honey, so that to introduce this gradually, and also to see how the beekeepers are adjusting. There is also to check how the market is adjusting, because one of the argument was that there is not enough organic honey or sugar for the winter feeding of the honeybees. So it is underlined, feed a minimum of 5% of hives with organic sugar or organic honey by September 28th. And operators shall note in the organic plan the potential impact of the use of organic sugar or honey, particularly on bee health and honey production. It's the only place in the whole standards where non-organic feed is allowed. So we're trying to change that. So so you have the nice pictures here, and we'll see how our beekeepers are adjusting to this requirement. 5% is not big. 10% was proposed, and then it was down to 5%. And we have a new, the 7.7, the organic insect production was intense. There was nothing. There was one sentence or two sentences in the 2020 version. So now you have a section on the origin of insects. So insects shall be hatched on organic production units, be managed organically through their lifetime, be the offspring of organic parents. So, and then and then we had to provide, in organic insect the organic insect industry is not so big, so we had to think about, okay, if you cannot find organic parents, how do you do this? So you have that as an exception. Insects may be the offspring of non-organic parents from outside the operation that have not been treated with prohibited substances after being introduced in the operation. So these introduced non-organic parents shall never be sold as organic. So it reflects very much other sections of the standards. Feed, feed, it's comparable to other sections, livestock sections. Feed additives, feed supplements listed in 645 are prohibited following, and there are some exceptions for insect. Is permitted by CFRE regulations, because the problem that we had, that we still have, I believe, is that insects are feeding on waste. They decompose and waste materials, and they participate to the ecological role in nutrient cycling. So you will see garbage and insects around by garbages. So mammalian or avian slaughter byproducts from organic sources and guaranteed free of specified risk materials are permitted. Feed formulas that may contain manure or other animal waste sourced from organic livestock operations are permitted. So we have to check. There is when this was published, I should have refreshed my information about this, but CFI is developing this insect production, the rules, the safety rules around organic insect production, and so but we know, and it is sure that the specified risk materials are not, it's not something you promote for your livestock. So an organic operation will have to prove that they are safe, but still we're waiting for a better regulations for feed formulas. So prohibited substances and practices are comparable to the other livestock section. So no antibiotics, no veterinary drugs, no synthetic substances to stimulate or retard growth, no synthetic parasiticides or antimicrobials, healthcare products other than those listed in table 5.2 in PSL, permitted substances list, and used as annotated. Living conditions, it was also a challenge, especially about density, because insects, they like to merge, to amalgamate. So, but the text says that the operator shall establish and maintain stocking densities and living conditions, and regarding environment, facilities, air quality, population size, that accommodate the health and natural behavior of the species, minimize stress, pain, injuries, and cannibalism. But we had a lot of discussion. Cannibalism is somewhat normal in insects population, and meet the needs of the species for exploratory or foraging behavior. So the cannibalism, it happens, the big eats the small one, but it would not be caused by a lack of feed, because you have bad living conditions. Density requirements may vary depending on many factors, such as the type of production system, species, production stage of the animal. So insects have different phases. So, this is something we will have to continue investigating because it's new, and insect production is in Canada. So we have put what we can understand as of now. So, the density depending on production stage and species. Habitat construction and materials. The wood and structural materials shall not have been treated with prohibited substance. You know this story. Cardboard and corrugated may be used for structures. Cardboard that is waxed or impregnated with a fungicide or another prohibited substance. Other prohibited substances is prohibited. No glossy paper or paper containing colored ink. And bedding and substrate material of agricultural origin shall be organic. If organic is not commercially available and bedding is required, non-organic is permitted, provided it does not contain prohibited substances and meet clauses in 1.4.1.5. So no GMO and all these stuff. This is it. Again, thank you. Thank you for attending. I thank you, François Labelle. And before you all speak English with a French accent, I wish you a very good afternoon and a nice weekend.